I know you say quite often that sleep and then you wake up in the morning and it's a brand new day, but sometimes I'll wake up right at whatever time I've set the alarm and I don't feel that great.
It takes a little focus to slow the momentum of what's going on. And what's happening is you've got an active vibration that is not under the influence of source when you go to sleep. And then when you wake up, you jump right in there. Because of association, maybe environment, maybe people around. You're not owning up that it's always thought then feel. You're not just waking up. When you go to bed, do you sleep? While you are asleep, that momentum subsides, and your best opportunity for a different influence is when you first wake up.
That said, the other day I woke up and all I saw was the very trail of a dream, and it wasn't particularly a great dream. It was just an okay thing. But then the first thing that happened, it was almost like an hour-long rampage.
Positive or negative?
Very positive.
Yes.
So I was trying to figure out at first, well, how do I get back into this in a later date? And then I let go of that.
Say more about that. How do I get back
How do I get back into that?
Into what?
Into that sort of rampage, starting the day, hour-long
But
rampage.
now you're thinking instead of receiving.
Exactly.
Don't do that.
Yeah.
Because you don't know how you got into it. You just received it and you liked it, and now you're trying to get back into something when you don't know how you got into it to begin with. So you're trying to do something that's not your work to do. That'd be like saying, I fell off a cliff, it wasn't that high, and I lived, and gravity took me down. How do I get back into that? And you say, well, I'll just climb back up on the cliff and it'll do it again. The vibrational characteristics will produce the same thing again. But let the vibrational characteristics be the thing that produces it, rather than you trying to figure it out when you don't know.
So I stopped doing that. I stopped trying to go back to it. And what I had come away with, and the thing that, because I actually recorded myself, I started speaking what I was thinking. And so I recorded it on my phone in the morning, that same morning. And I haven't gone back to listen to it because I don't feel I need to. But what I kept coming up with, and I remember you saying this, being in love with your inner being, I kept feeling that I had fallen in love. I kept saying, this is what it feels like to fall in love or to be in love, but not being in love in the love way. It actually felt like I was in a pool of warm water, and that was love.
And so, you got a problem with that?
No.
You're trying to make it be different than it is?
No, but and
what's the point you're trying to make here?
My question, I know, right? My question is, because at that point I started really thinking about about my inner being and about Abraham, about you, and thinking about whether is that one unique individual connection that I'm making, or is that Abraham that I was connecting with?
Well, the thing that we want to ask you, as you're thinking those thoughts and trying to force it, did it feel better and better and better, or did you lose your bliss?
Oh no, it kept feeling better.
If it feels better and better and better, then the answer will occur to you. But we don't believe you. We think you recognize the bliss, and then we think you overused it by trying to use the power of non-resisted thought, which took you into trying to make something happen. This was an opportunity for you to feel the difference between receiving and trying to make something happen. Have you ever had a conversation? Maybe you came to this gathering with a friend, and you're all feeling so good because you've had insights today. You're more tuned in than you usually are. You have more clarity flowing through you, and now you're going to go have lunch and have a conversation, and you're going to talk it to death. You're just going to chew on it and chew on it and chew on it until you're going to wish you were dead. We're exaggerating, but you've been in the receiving mode. A lot of this receptivity has reset the vibration of your being, and you're feeling more lighthearted. You're in a better point of attraction, but you don't need to regurgitate all of it and now utilize what you've learned in some beneficial way. That's a given. The good is coming to you as a result of your vibrational adjustment. And that's really the strongest message that we have to you, because you started out, it was almost like a trick question. You said, I wake up and I don't feel all that good. And so we explained about that. And then you said, oh, but then I woke up and I felt so good. And it just went on and on and on and on and on. And we say, usually you have one tendency or another. And if you know the difference between them, if we awakened from a nightmare, we would not describe it to anyone and we wouldn't talk about it, but we would acknowledge that I must have been under the influence of something, and it's usually television, that was active in your vibration before you went to sleep. So something that you were watching activated all your insecurities, and so the same bad things that were happening while you were watching that are being recreated in your dream, because that's the direction you were going. On the other hand, if you awaken and you feel in love, like the universe loves you, and like your inner being loves you, and like you are love, and like all is really, really well, then sit with that. And if more comes from it, then that's a wonderful thing. But don't try to turn it into more than it already was. Don't you be the creator of the dream. Be the receiver of the dream. This is the most important thing that we could ever say to you. Be the receiver of the dream. Don't get step 1 and step 3 mixed up. Step 1 is when you do the creation. That's when you get in there and you duke it out and you fight it out and you worry about it and you scramble around and you sift through the contrast and you launch rocket after rocket after rocket after rocket. And then the universe, your inner being, source, does step 2. And then the law of attraction responds to their point of attraction, to their lovely point of attraction. And your creation, your expansion becomes more and more and more and more and more. And then when you chill, when you appreciate, when you bask, when you meditate and you quiet your mind and you begin to receive, let that be step 3. And when you're really secure in that, then thoughts will flow to you. You got a lot from that just now, didn't you? And here's what your confusion has been. We love you so much. You have been trying so hard to prove your worthiness. You try so hard to sacrifice and struggle and suffer in order to make things move forward. And that doesn't move the positive things forward that you want. Struggle and suffering only moves forward more struggle and suffering. It just does. It's just the way that the law of attraction works. It's an across-the-board equal opportunity law that is responding to whatever is. You get what you think about, whether you want it or not, and you can feel what you're attracting, whether you want to admit it or not. And so when you're able to separate in your mind step 1 from step 3, and you really finally hear us, that your dominant conscious work is to prepare yourself to receive. Because life's coming at you and causing you to do the step 1 work. And that's really a wonderful thing, isn't it? You're mixing it up and you're having lots of experiences and you're pondering and you're concluding and you're seeing results of things. What an incredible synthesizing of life you all are about. And what an amazing mass consciousness vortex that you are creating. And then, if you could just love yourself enough to not be struggling and sacrificing for just a minute, maybe, just maybe, you'll tap in to an impulse that will be pleasurable. But there's the rub. So many people don't think that it is a right place to stand in pleasure. They really don't. If they're not suffering and if they're not struggling and if they're not demanding, then they don't think they're getting anything done. And we want to acknowledge you can get a lot done in your meanness, but there is no comparison to the leverage of source energy. You want to be the creator you were born to be? You got to tune in and let the energy that creates worlds flow through you. And when it does, it doesn't feel like struggle. It feels like ease. And when it does, it doesn't feel like confusion. It feels like clarity. And when it does, it doesn't feel like hatred. It feels like love. You see? Enough? Really good. Really good. Yeah.
So even though that did happen, I'm still back to that part of, should I just allow myself to not be so hard on myself when I do feel bad in the morning? If I wake up and I'm like, not to...
Well, we have a big question for you.
Yeah.
Do you have a choice?
Well, yeah, it's true.
Could you have gotten out ahead of it? You see, if you fall out of an airplane and you don't have a parachute and you say, Abraham, what do I do now? We say, hang on, it'll be over soon. If you got out ahead of it, you'd have a parachute and we wouldn't be in this predicament together, would we? So what you do is you don't suppose that it's going to be the same scenario again. Now you say instead, as I put myself in my bed, I'm going to do a little basking, and I'm going to acknowledge the things that I feel appreciation for. And I'm going to find some thought that's pleasant, and I'm just going to focus on it. Even if it's not much of a thought, you're getting out ahead of it by, in a sense, breaking the cycle of unwanted attraction. For most of you, when you slumber, that happens automatically. But for those of you who are trying too hard, you take your struggles into your sleep state and you try to work them out in your dream state because, and here it is, because you've been trying to use the power instead of the joy. I'm going to learn this stuff and I'm going to make it happen. And we say, you've already made it happen. It's in your vortex. Now you got to relax. You got to chill to let it in. This is a big distinction.